competition. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of UGA Sports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I am joined by the former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, Jim Donnan, and, of course, Dayne Young, our executive producer. And we appreciate all of you joining us on this Tuesday afternoon in June. I actually have a piece I'm working on, just a list of all the dates that you have to check off when you start from the end of the season to the first kickoff. So you've got that first fake out about snow. You've got the end of the NFL. You've got the end of the basketball season. You've got the Masters, Memorial Day, all those little check boxes that you have. The end of the baseball season, which was a little abrupt for us this year. And that first week of June when you realize, hey, we're in the summer now. So June, July, 2 months, we'll be watching Georgia practice. So it's getting closer. Go out there, get your vacations in, and be sure to tune in to us every Tuesday at noon as we give you the latest of what's going on. The current thing going on right now is mostly in recruiting. That's what's hot right now. And, Coach, I want to get your thoughts on a couple of recruits. I know we have our own recruiting show. We've been lacking getting it out, but you are a great talent analyst, and you've been able to look at guys throughout the years and know who was going to be a star and who wasn't going to be one. And I remember when Drew Bobo committed, a lot of people thought, oh, he's getting a spot at Georgia because he's a legacy. And you told us on this show, you said, look, that kid can play. Doesn't matter what the hell his name is. It could be John Smith. He can play football. Well, he's going to be your starting center. So they went out and got another Carter Lucky. We know Lawson Lucky can play. We know Lawson's a badass, plays golf, great tight end. Now they got his little brother. He's not on offense. He's on defense, defensive end. I want to get your thoughts on the fifth Lucky to wind up playing at the University of Georgia.
Yeah, I'm excited for the family. First of all, Mike and Hillary, his parents, really dogs through and through. And of course, they kept an open mind, and he made some visits, but certainly in the end, he'd like to play with his brother, and I can understand that. A different skill set, a lot bigger kid as far as thickness, and as you mentioned, defensive end, defensive tackle, and he's got good movement, got really good power, and they're excited about the fact that anytime a guy wants to come and play with his brother, to me, family is something you got to develop, but you already got that going here with Carter and Lawson. And of course, I've mentioned before, I've asked so many people over the years, Chris Felica, every person I know that knows anything about football, and I can't remember anybody having three guys, a set of triplets that played at the same school, but maybe there's, some obscure situation. But if anybody on our show knows of anybody like that, then fill me in so I won't be stupid saying that. But I really feel a deep sense of pride in the fact that the Lucky family has been good for Georgia. And I think certainly Lawson has shown flashes, and I think he's getting ready to really roll now. And Carter, it's just a big, strong, physical kid that you can't get enough of.
Do you see him as a defensive end or defensive tackle? He's a big boy, like you said. You were mentioning him years ago when Lawson signed. You're like, hey, I hope we can get his younger brother too. You've been watching that kid grow.
Yeah, I remember when Mike was on his official visit with Lawson, and he was talking to me about Lawson. He said, but hey, Coach, he said, I got one coming up that's going to be a dog. And I said, well, tell me about him. And he told me about Carter then. And I saw him list of photos I was looking at the other day about when Justice Haynes came in and Lawson at the same time, and had my picture made with all four of them, the two dads and the two prospective athletes. And certainly we've had a good legacy of we're getting ready to get some more of these guys. Hopefully Davy Jacobs' son comes along, and Teddy Gerard, the nephew of Corey Phillips. So you can't beat that.
Coach, I have 3 kids, and I know I call them by different names. Just you get them all mixed up. When you have 3 Luckies on your team, how did you keep them straight? Who was who?
Well, it's a little easier because they're always in different groups. Dustin was playing in one position, and Mike, and then they're all 3 playing different places, so that helped a little bit, and a little bit of difference in how they looked and their body types and everything. But all 3 really contributed and were a big part of our turnaround here. And unfortunately, Mike got hurt year, and then he ended up transferring, playing for Mickey up at James Madison, and did a good job. But really, I didn't have any trouble telling them apart. But I'm sure early on maybe that was a situation when they're growing up.
So you got Carter Lucky coming in. As you mentioned, a bunch of other legacies out there. Georgia went really hard to get Justice Haynes, couldn't get him. Thomas Davis Jr. recently on campus this past weekend, hoping to catch up with him. But let's talk about the one that got away, Coach. The surprise news last week, kind of out of the blue, was Mr. Bowman, the tight end, number 1 tight end in the nation. A kid I think is going to be an absolute superstar. He picks USC, and a lot of us were thinking it was going to be a Georgia-Texas battle, maybe with Alabama and Oregon in the background, USC kind of in the background, but Oregon and Alabama and USC kind of in that second tier, but boom, all of a sudden he's committed to USC, and that kind of caught us all by surprise.
Yeah, I can't really speak factually all the way on this, except, the different talks that I had to people over there, but felt good about him because of our tradition of tight ends and the fact that he, liked their system and all that. But, realistically, everything's got to be, the stars got to align for a guy to come all the way across the country.
Yeah.
And the situation here is USC's they're in a, I would say it. Yeah. I'd say they're desperate right now to get back to where they thought they were going to be when Lincoln Riley came there. They haven't been as good as they were the first year, for sure. And so they've got a lot of firepower out there trying to, pull it all together here at the end and save it, because, if you don't make it with Riley, what are you going to do? You're going to start from scratch, and who's the big name that's going to come there now? Because the fact that he hadn't been able to get it accomplished like everybody thought he might. But moving to the Big Ten, tough on those teams out there, I think, because of the travel, everything involved, and maybe hurts the recruiting a little bit too, because the kids are looking into all of that. So, but the general feeling around here, it's been ever since I came here. Sometimes I worry way too much about guys we lost and not about the ones we got. But you got to bring up the fact that Todd Hartley was right in there with him, and we certainly, in my mind, he might have been a little leery of who we got, because we got some here now. We got 4 freshmen, really. Both Riddell and Heinrich are still considered freshmen, right? Or is Riddell going to be a sophomore? I don't know.
Not sure on him. I definitely know that Heinrich is. Elias Williams is a unicorn. That kid is unreal. Ethan Barber.
Yeah, those 2, and then you got Lucky and Delp. Delp for sure will be gone. I don't know if Lucky will come out or not, but we'll see how that rolls. But it's an interesting scenario here, because we're going to always have good tight ends, and we had a couple in here this weekend that'll made my mouth water. I can tell you that. I'm not going to tell you who they were, but
his name's Caden Prothrow, and there's a picture on the front of the site. We have an update on Caden. I've seen him multiple times at camps. There was one camp he didn't do a whole lot, and I gave him so much hell about it. The next time he went to camp, he won MVP. So I'm not saying
right.
I spurred him on. It was just a situation where I knew what he was capable of, and we didn't get to see enough reps. And you could tell he was like, hey, I didn't get enough reps last time. And then the last 2 camps, he's won MVP that we've been to. So there's a front There's a story on the front page of UGAsports.com. Check it out on Caden Prothero. He's the number 2 tight end in the nation. And to your point, Coach,
he's 26 though, right?
Yeah.
I was talking about some 27 guys.
Okay, well, yeah, you don't have to tell us about who those guys were, but the 2026 kid, of course, you also have Keys already. Just looking at that tight end room, I'm thinking, well, I've got some really good guys ahead of me who can, how many balls can I get versus going to USC where they'll build an offense around you. Of course, Coach, we could fix all this if we just go 14 personnel.
Yeah, I like 14, 13. I mean, let's get them all out there, but go back to the bone. I was happy to see they listed my play as one of the top plays of the last 20 years, with 30 years, I guess, with Keith Jackson running that tight end reverse. But
I'm glad you didn't waste it.
We had to split him out once in a while just to let him think that we might throw him a pass. But
well, Coach, I saw the angle of that play. So this is an article that Bruce Feldman wrote in The Athletic of the top 25 plays in college football. And so this is the Keith Jackson reverse. Tell me about the block that happened, because on the video it kind of gets cut off where it came from, but there's a block on that right side of the field on the reverse.
Yeah, we had a guy go back and block the guy, and now it'd be illegal because he blocked him a little bit below the waist, but and it wasn't a blindside block, but it was a good one. And then we had a halfback get through the line of scrimmage and go downfield and help him. But this guy's 6'5", 250. Went 88 yards. I mean, looked like Brock Bowers running down the field. I sent that play to Brock a couple years ago after he ran that reverse against somebody. I said, "Hey, this looks just like you." And of course, he laughed. But it was an interesting scenario with that play because we put it in to try to get the ball to Keith because we weren't going to throw. I mean, we could, but it's rushing 400 yards a game. So we tried to appease him a little bit with that play, and he was so glad to get the ball, he wasn't going to give it back.
You said on here before that he's the most talented player that you coached, or at least right there at the top.
Second to Champ. Champ just overall, but Keith was the next. And he's the only guy I ever coached that could play the cello, though. I mean, here's a guy 6'5", 250, played the cello and played it well, too. I mean, I haven't been to too many concerts before, but I went to one on campus where he did an individual performance there by himself. That they had the orchestra, but then he did a solo, and
wow.
Unbelievable.
Looks like a violin in his hands, though.
Yeah. I had to always remind everybody that the difference between culture and agriculture is 75 miles. That's how far it is from Oklahoma to Oklahoma State. You talk about everybody being chapped this weekend. Of all the teams, the only team that would have made it even worse would have Texas would have been there. But for Oklahoma State and Duke to come in here, two of the teams that I despise, I mean, that made it even worse for me. But that's water under the bridge, sir. Let's don't talk about it. But just looking at their uniforms. They had Oklahoma, it looked as big as you could ever read, and you had to have a microscope to see State down at the bottom. So they're so proud of Oklahoma. The State part was just a little bit on the side there. And I was thinking to myself, typical Aggies, But, hey, they won the national championship in golf, too. I mean, good for them. But they're a really sad outfit for me.
Yeah, you had a rough weekend, Coach, with the Oklahoma girls getting bounced too.
Oh, last night we were all in the fetal position. But Oklahoma's really had rebuilding year for sure. I mean, lost so many players, but I thought they were going to come back. But that pitcher for the Texas Tech Raiders, Red Raiders, is worth every penny they gave her. And from what I understand, Patrick Mahomes is financing a lot of it, but she's worth $1 million. I mean, she's unbelievable. She'll probably – I know this. I'm going to be pulling hard for them because you know who they're playing, don't you?
No.
Texas. I'm pulling hard for those Red Raiders.
We're going to get Coach a Guns Up T-shirt.
Yeah. I'm beefing them.
I know Georgia baseball fans are disappointed. I suppose there's something to be said that being disappointed is better than the state of the program a couple of years ago when making the postseason wasn't even a given, much less hosting. But tough weekend for the Dogs, and they have to shore up pitching, it seems like, because you get the postseason coach, one or two good pitchers can take you out.
Right, and the fact you're home and you got a chance to host the Super Regional too, if you win, really puts you in position. But they're on the move, got good facilities now, and just got to you look at these rosters and these other sports turning over so quickly. You almost a whole new team every year with people coming in from transfer. So I'm anxious to see who all we're going to have. And how about that kid that's committed to us in golf that's only going to be a junior from Thomasville? Yesterday, 18 under on 36 holes over there qualifying. I think that's right. But you might look that up, Dane. But I would hope he could come out early and come on in next year because he can probably be going pro pretty quick. But that's hard to believe. He's over there playing at Piedmont Driving Club, 18 under.
Everybody else is reclassifying. We got stories about recruits all the time classifying up a year. So bring him on. To your point, though, Dane, it was very disappointed with the Georgia baseball. It was and again, I'm with the people that say I hate the rule where if you're the host team, you don't get to be the home team. But I get it. I understand why they do it that way. I just don't like it. But it wasn't just Georgia that had an early exit.
Fluctuated, right? I mean, they were home team starting the first game, but then if there was a second game, they were the home team. But once you get in that losers bracket, you can't be the home team all the time, right?
Right. It bugs me. The Vanderbilt, number 1, also out. Texas, also out. Mississippi State, out. Florida, out. Alabama, out. Oklahoma, out. Ole Miss, out. Kentucky, out. Basically, Arkansas, Auburn, and Tennessee are the only teams that we knew advanced to the LSU and advanced to the Super Regional. And LSU win last night, or they lose?
I think LSU won.
Okay, so 4 teams. That was again, not to say misery loves company, but I'm just saying it wasn't only Georgia that was hosting that didn't make it. So 1, 2, 3.
Fortunately, Tech lost down at Ole Miss too. That helped.
Yeah. So 9 teams total got skunked and just abysmal. But again, that's another check mark in the baseball season for the Georgia Bulldogs. We're in the 80 something days away. I can remember when it was 180. Now we're down to 80 days. Less than 2
months. Is that all we got? 80?
I think it's like 88, 89, something like that. It's we're in the 80s at least. That counts for something. So.
We got the Thundering Herd coming in here first game, right?
That's yes, right. Sir.
3:30. First month of games are all at 3:30.
Well, I like those 3:30 games.
Coach, you mentioned Keith Jackson with the cello. I'm at SEC Media Days one time, and Dee Ford, the former Auburn defensive end, I think he played for the Chiefs for a little while too. He just playing the piano in the lobby at the Winfrey in Hoover. And I'm talking like classical jazz pianist style. It was impressive. I thought it was just, one of the media members or one of the people in the mall or something. No, it was Dee Ford over there rocking a suit, playing the piano.
That's impressive.
I wanted to touch on something else. We have a nice article on the front page. It's a column from our own Anthony Dasher talking about David Andrews retiring. And Coach, I want to get your thoughts on David Andrews because he's one of my favorite Bulldogs of all time. I remember going to one of the first interviews he did. I met with him and his parents because he's so new to doing interviews at his school, and they were like, "Yeah, we don't really know how this works," so they went with him. And just interviewed him by his
good
car.
Family, good everything about him. I mean, he had a great career. Hampered a little bit toward the end with injuries, but I never will forget the scenario here. Belichick and Lombardi, the guy who's his general manager now, were at a basketball game here back whenever David was getting ready to come out his senior year, and I went over. Walked up the steps there and saw him, and I went over and spoke to Bill, and I didn't know Lombardi at the time, and he said he was there to come to pro day and everything, and I I said, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I tell you one thing, you need to look at that Andrews kid. I think he's a real sleeper. Now, he would have looked at him anyhow, but I hope that it helped a little bit. But David told me later on, hey, that Belichick mentioned that to him. But I'm telling you now, that guy was he's the kind of guy you got, which I think we're going to see with Bobo, can make the calls, just does everything right. And what a good career he had. Unbelievable, really, when you look at the winning that he was. And unfortunately, the last couple of years haven't been as good. But, for him to play that long and be as sufficient as he had, it shows you what kind of player he was.
If there's a center it's Georgia these days. With guys like him, Ben Jones, Cedric Van Pran, on and on and on of just really good centers.
Now this year too, Dane. He's actually going to the Patriots, so he'll probably be the center.
Jared Wilson, yeah.
Did Trey Hill wind up playing center again?
Guard and center. He's playing a little bit everywhere, but yeah.
Teddy Ratledge is working out at center.
Jake can play there. I remember that one day that I saw him over there at practice, and they were just using him for utility. But he's got the intelligence. All of these guys are smart, but it's just to your advantage if you can play more than one position. You can't carry but so many guys on your roster for every game, and you got to have just like you have to have a third quarterback. A lot of times people won't carry but two, and then they have an emergency quarterback guy that can come in there. Well, more than likely carry two centers, and then somebody can jump in there and be the center if you need him.
Love it. All right, we have a bunch of questions that came in on UGASports.com and some that came in from our Facebook page. I want to get to those, but first I want to mention our friends at Athens Ford, because it's a good time to buy a Ford. Right now, if you go out there, you're going to get a great deal on any of the vehicles. Of course, $14,000 off, $17,000 off. But let's say you're not in the market to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle. Check out their deals on servicing your current one. You go out and buy Ford Select tires, you get $100 rebates. Or you can get up to $130 rebates, depending on the type of tires you get. It's a Memorial Day offer. I know Memorial Day's passed, but it's good through 6/9. So still got some days to get that in. They have up to $150 off on rebates on oil changes and battery checks and all sorts of stuff like that. Plus, of course, if you are in the kind of Athens greater area and you don't have time to drop your vehicle off, you can actually have them come out and do an oil change, do a battery check. You guys, the red light comes on and says, hey, check engine. They can come out and plug into it and tell you what's going on with it. They have a mobile service center. I was at the racetrack on a highway, and that guy was right next to me. And I opened up the back. I'm like, guy had more tool. Yeah, that was a tool man's dream, all the stuff that's in the back of that mobile truck. So check them out when you get a chance. They can come to you. You need tires, batteries, stuff like that. In other words, service on the vehicle that you're keeping, that if you're not in the market to get a new one yet, go out there and get service. It's actually cheaper to get service done there than it is a lot of these third-party mechanics. So check them out. Also want to mention our friends at myperfectfranchise.net. Andy Ludecki is one of the best guys out there. He gets you into the right business that will match your goals, your time, your investment capabilities. So if you're like, well, I don't know what goes into being a franchise owner, he'll tell you. Because I don't know what the pitfalls are, he will tell you. I'm not sure exactly how much I make. Well, he'll get you in the ballpark there. Point being, if you have questions about wanting to be your own boss, reach out to Andy Ludecki at myperfectfranchise.net. You can call him, email him, text him, whatever, and he'll talk with you. He's helped a lot of UGA sports members start new businesses. They are now their own bosses. A couple of them have talked about maybe coming in advertising with us. We have some advertising spots open on this show. I'll talk to them and say, hey, look, you worked with Andy. Now you can put out your business on a much bigger scale because they're making a lot of money now. So check out myperfectfranchise.net.
I wanted to do a quick rundown of quarterbacks in the SEC as we sit here in June, and I'm basing this off of Vegas odds at this point of who has the highest odds to win the Heisman. So I'm saying that some of these are still competitions potentially, but most likely starter with these. And Coach, I just want your off-the-cuff answer and opinion of some of these quarterbacks. Highest odds in the nation for any player is a quarterback in the SEC, Arch Manning at Texas. Started 2 games. He's a plus 700 in the odds. Arch Manning in Texas, Coach.
Well, he's got a long way to go to get the Heisman Trophy. I can tell you that. Just because, he's got to prove a lot, but certainly he's been a very good recruit to get there. I watched him throw here when he was here, and special talent. I mean, really can move for a guy that size too. I was really impressed, and we've seen him in high school and college run. So I would say school's out for me on him. I mean, he certainly got a good supporting cast, got a lot of good players around him, even though they had a big group of guys like we did drafted. But I would say I would probably bet the 700 he wouldn't myself. But
I was just being in the media. I can feel people salivating one way or the other. If he has one good game, he's the greatest of all time. If he has one bad game, they're going to write his obituary, talk about what he's the biggest bust of all time. There's never going to be any nuanced discussion about Arch. They are coming with a pedestal or a rope and pitch to burn him. I mean, I feel bad for him because
it's tough.
There won't be anything in the middle.
Yeah, he's got it, but it goes with the territory, and he's certainly making a lot of money. I mean, any way you look at it. So,
second highest odds among quarterbacks in the SEC, Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. The first glimpse that he had of the college football world was after Jaden Daniels got hurt against Georgia in the SEC championship game. Now it feels like he's been at LSU as the starter forever.
Yeah, I know you like him. You told me about it, a lot more about him before I even checked him out. And he definitely has got the arm. He just got to throw the ball to his team as much as he does the other. I mean, way too many chances. And he's had some really big games. And the problem for him is their defense was so bad that he's always playing from behind, and the teams could scheme their rushes and everything. And if they could get their defense to play better, I think he'll cut down on his mistakes, because you're going to make them when you're trying to come from behind or outscore the other team. I mean, you're just going to take more chances. He's a coach's son. His dad probably enjoy getting to see him play some this year. He's gone from the Eagles to the Saints, and now he went down there with Kellen Moore. So he'll be able to go over and see LSU some on Saturday, and I'm sure he probably was able to do that some at Philadelphia, but not as easily. But he's got a younger brother coming up that's class 27 that everybody's talking about too. I haven't really checked him out, but
he's a lefty, Coach.
Oh, he's lefty? Mm-hmm. Well, nothing wrong with that. But he definitely got the genes, that's for sure. But I like Nussmeier.
Third highest odds, Lenoris Sellers at South Carolina.
That guy right there is a demon. Now I'm telling you, I don't know what they were doing in the bowl game, but they looked like they had, I don't know what they were doing with him. He just didn't utilize him like they did against Clemson and some of those other teams. But he makes them as much of a threat like Cam Newton did for Auburn. I'm not saying he's Cam Newton, but, Cam was a one-man wrecking ball for him. And this guy, they're going to have to replace that running back that transferred from Arkansas this year. And, they got some good receivers, and their defense was really good last year. But, I'm high on Sellers, really high.
Sellers and then Kate Klubnik at Clemson. I mean, there's a chance the Heisman runs through the state of South Carolina this year. It's historically a quarterback award.
Klubnik's going to have a big year. I mean, he knows the system. He's got a good supporting cast, and as you pointed out on the show, they got 2 or 3 defensive players first round, so their defense will be really good, and their schedule's good. So he'll be right up there. I mean, he'll get a lot of press because of all the big games they win, and but he knows what they want, and a lot of teams like to have him as a quarterback.
Fourth highest in the Heisman odds. There's a tie we'll discuss first. Gunner Stockton, Georgia.
Well, Gunner's got to prove it just like Arch Manning. He's been behind the scenes waiting on his chance, and he knows everything about the program and the offense. He's been severely tested in practice against our defense. As a backup quarterback, he got to go against the ones a lot. So I think we've talked about it ad nauseum about our running game's got to get better to help him. And if it does, he's got the legs to keep plays going, and he's got the accuracy to hit the underneath routes and the deep routes on play action. So as the team goes, I think Gunner will go. If we've got a really improved defense and our offensive line and running game gets better, I think Gunner can have a big year.
You look at some of the plays he makes with his legs. That gets a lot of Heisman eyes. People like to see a guy who tucks and runs. I mean, it changes the game considerably, of course, as Coach points out every time we do a watch-along show. Just that threat of the run changes the defense, and then sometimes just tucking it, taking it away. But you look at the fact that he got knocked out at in that Texas game. Just those are the type of heroics that when they put on that compilation reel gets you votes, warranted or not. So there might be a few more plays there that he makes with his legs. People go, "Oh, look at this!" Hey, Jackson Dart.
I like for him to be all state. I like for him to play better than Haynes King. I'm not worried about the Heisman, but King's a really good quarterback at Tech. That it's very similar to what Gunner, although Tech runs a more quarterback-centric running offense. Ours is more pro style.
Tied with Gunner at that spot in the Heisman odds, DJ Lagway at Florida.
I think DJ is kind of like Arch, although he's played a little bit more, and then all the issues with his shoulder and everything, and his leg, everything coming up. I mean, if he's healthy and he can make a difference for Florida. They've had a very inconsistent offense. Everything's been inconsistent there, coaching, playing, everything. So, but he's a quarterback that could go into a lot of programs and be a winning quarterback.
Oklahoma dives into the transfer portal, plans to start John Mateer from Washington State, now QB1 at Oklahoma.
Well, everybody out there is waiting on him to do it. I think the supporting cast again is going to be the issue for him, just like here. Their line was so bad last year that the quarterback was running for his life, and so. But they brought in the young coordinator from Washington State, and they're really fired up about him. And I think Mateer, very similar to what we're talking about, running quarterback. He can run, throw, but played in not as tough a schedule last year, playing in when Washington State downsized, leaving when the conference dissolved. They didn't play near the schedule that they played before. So I don't, before he couldn't get on the field because of the guy that transferred, Cam Ward transferred. So I'm hoping he does well. I mean, certainly not to the point that I hope Gunner does, but I'm be pulling for him.
We saw this guy for 2 drives while Jackson Dart got hurt. Dart now with the Giants in the NFL. Austin Simmons taking over as quarterback 1 for Lane Kiffin.
I just thought he played spectacular against us, and then he had some mop up. They had that bowl game where they were trying to keep the score down, but they just couldn't. They kept scoring, and he's definitely a very talented big kid, can run and throw. His supporting cast is going to be the thing too. I mean, no way their defense can be as good, but it might be. They got more transfers than most people. Again, lost some good players to the pros on offense too. But if I was Lane, I'd be excited about that guy.
It's odd to come into a season and have as little information on an Alabama quarterback as it feels like that we do. Ty Simpson, starting quarterback for the Tide, most likely.
Well, his dad's a coach, and we played him, I think, last year, Tennessee Tech. Is that it? Well, maybe 2 years ago we played Tennessee Tech.
2 years ago, yeah.
And or one of those Tennessee schools. But he coached his son a lot like Gunner, got the background. And I think he'll fit in a little bit better maybe than Milroe because he's more of a a static guy. Doesn't move around. He can move, but their Washington offense that Alabama's implemented from bringing in from the West Coast is more of a read the coverage and dump it off and all. Milroe had a tendency to focus in and then turn on the jets, but I think he's going to be a lot like some of those quarterbacks they had back when they were winning, just play around their defense. And I'm talking about winning the championships, some of the guys they had, but I don't know how good their defense is going to be. So up in the air, I would say he's going to have to prove himself because he got that young freshman they say is a real phenom.
You say turn on the Jets. Next guy, Marcel Reed, Texas A&M. That's about as high as the Jets go to.
Yeah, I had a tendency. I had a chance to watch Marcel play live 2 years ago up there when they played for the state championship when Muschamp's son was playing for Baylor. And, boy, I tell you, this kid can really run. Got to work on his throwing, but he came through for them when they needed it this year in big games. But then toward the end, everybody kind of kept caught up with their offense and started defending, the quarterback runs a lot better. He was really good when he was a change-up guy coming in there and giving them a different look. But I would say it'll be hard for him to do as well as he did last year because I think defense are going to catch up with him.
We think Joey Aguilar is going to be the starting quarterback at Tennessee, the transfer from UCLA in that NIL trade. But Jake Merklinger also has the same odds for Vegas. So I suppose that's a competition right now, Coach, at Tennessee.
Well, I don't know either one of those guys from a jar of Vicks Vapor. I don't know. I haven't said that in a long time. I'm sure people get tired of me saying, but I really don't. I don't know anything about either one of those. And, I hope they have a good year after the third game.
So here's the guy that I know you know something about.
We played the third game, right?
Yeah,
third game.
Jackson Arnold leaves Oklahoma and now is with Hugh Freeze at Auburn.
Well, Jackson, very highly recruited and came in there to play for Oklahoma and didn't get to play a lot his first year. Second year, they were just didn't do much. Didn't have an O-line, but he did get the win against they did beat Alabama. And I don't know. I just think, I'm just not high on Auburn's offense right now. I know Freeze had a couple years at Mississippi where they, had some stellar quarterback play, but never has really had the real quarterback to jump out. So, but he's got the ability now. He definitely can do some things that they had last year couldn't.
5 more to discuss. All these are all transfers. Bo Pribula.
Coach knows stuff 10 times more than I do, but I do want to jump in and say when I talked to the folks at Oklahoma about Jackson Arnold, they said, look, he was thrown to the fire way too early. Did not have they pulled him too quick. They destroyed the kid's confidence. When he comes back with the confidence, he's, the scouts I talked to, they're like, they love this kid. So
yeah,
you're right, Coach. What else does Auburn have? I'm not sure, but Jackson Arnold, Georgia wanted him. Georgia went hard after him in the transfer portal.
I can just tell you this. He better be ready to go because Freeze will destroy his confidence pretty quick. Because it's never Freeze's fault. It's always the quarterback.
You remember the story with Penn State having a quarterback that during the college football playoff had to transfer just for how the calendar falls. That's Bo Pribula. Now he's at Missouri. Most likely their starting quarterback.
This guy did well in the Elite 11, everything about him. And, he did no reason to stay at Penn State knowing that quarterback was coming back. And, they've got a good system out there, quarterback friendly. You look at the quarterbacks that have done well. And I don't know that their overall squad is as good as it has been the last couple of years, but their schedule, come on. Their schedule is, it's ridiculous how easy it is. They could get some guys over there at the bus terminal to play and win 8 games. I think that's just ridiculous.
The Fighting
Hope you
Sam
have to work with
Pittman.
Oklahoma next year.
What's that?
Hope they have to take Oklahoma's schedule next year.
Yeah, I'd like that too. Oklahoma's schedule compared to Texas and Mississippi and Missouri. And I guess I'm being sarcastic about it, but I mean, it's just.
No, it's brutal. Florida's too. Georgia's is awful as well.
Maybe we'll get a break on that, but who knows?
Arkansas returns Talon Green at quarterback, so second year after the Boise State transfer.
This guy can be outhouse or penthouse, man. He's really good, and then he does some things that just defy. Can't believe that he practiced them. You know, why would you do that? And again, he's playing with a team that's always trying to come from behind, and they want to be good there. You know, everybody does, but the whole state's behind them. You know, like nobody else. Like the whole state's behind us too. But you know what I mean? It's just such a big deal for Arkansas to win, and I think he's feeling that, and Pittman is, and Petrino. But I mean, he's got to get some help. He can't win by himself.
Coach, you heard Tommy Tuberville is running for governor in Alabama, right?
Are you serious?
Well, he is. That's true. That's a story. Yeah, you had not heard that. Well, he is.
Tubbs for governor. Man.
Well, the real governor of Alabama after last year is Diego Pavia at Vandy.
Hey, you talk about a team that really needs a guy and has met that need and has put that program on the map and saved the coach's job and assistant coaches and all of this guy he's money and he plays hard, and they got the perfect system for Vanderbilt. A lot of systems of offense that magnify the option game and things like that. And he's tough as nails and very believes in himself. And I mean, you couldn't ask for a better guy to run that offense. So, and he appealed to the NCAA and got an extra year. So it's going to be, I mean, Vanderbilt's tough. I mean, they got some good players and they continue to recruit. And Pavia's, man, he's a winner.
Likely starting quarterback at Kentucky. Roddy, get this journey. Texas A&M, Auburn, Incarnate Word, and now at Kentucky, Zach Calzada.
You know, Zach was a recruited. Mike Bobo told me about him when he got him, and they were high on him, and things didn't work out for him. And you know, at A&M or Auburn, and then he went to Incarnate Word, which that's where Cam Ward knocked it out too. So I'm not sure what their nickname is, but I've gotten where I can pronounce Incarnate Way Word, whatever it is, but I can't.
They're the Cardinals coach.
Oh, they're the Cardinals?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's good. The Incarnate Word Cardinals. That's good. So he's got some ability now. I think this rent a quarterback type deal where they've been trying to bring a guy in every year. I mean, they got to establish somebody up there in Kentucky. I mean, and, you know, some of their better players left, receivers. They lost some good receivers in the portal. So
they did.
This guy, you know, I thought Vandergrift would be the answer, but the supporting cast, they didn't have any running game. And their defense was, you know, they had the one big win over Ole Miss, but tough year. I'd say this would make a break year for Stoops for sure.
He's the longest tenured coach in the SEC. If it is the end, then Kirby Smart would be.
I would say Kirby's got a better chance of making it through this year than Stoops. But I mean, Stoops has got a lot of things going for him, and what he's able to do up there. He's really, I mean.
But they soured on him last year.
He won on a big level, and then, but you know, you can't, when everybody pours their heart out emotionally and financially and everything, and then you're getting ready in the middle of the night to go to another school, and then you don't when the other school. I don't know what happened at A&M, but he went from being the leading guy to staying at Kentucky in about an hour. So I don't know if some people at Texas A&M said, "Hey, we can't take him" or what. But that didn't help him up at Kentucky, I'm sure.
And then last one, Mississippi State, looks like Blake Shapen. Second year, he was injured a lot last year. He came from Baylor the year before.
He was a good player at Baylor, and they thought he was going to be really good for Mississippi State, and then he came in there and got hurt. But that kid that played against us was really good, but he transferred to what, LSU?
Who are we talking about here? Oh, yeah. He's the backup at LSU now, and I'm forgetting his name.
But I do know he left him. I don't know, maybe
Van Buren.
Yeah, maybe LSU. Tell me.
We had this whole thing on the Watch Along show about Van Buren.
Yeah,
he's the backup at LSU now.
Yeah, so good player, but he won't be playing ahead of Nussmeier. And then they got that phenom freshman too. But I think Mississippi State just got to. I mean, they're trying to make an imprint. Ole Miss is rolling and got the new coach at Mississippi State. I mean, I think they only won 2 games last year. They got to make some kind of improvement.
The interesting note to me, Roddy, with the Heisman odds as I wrap this up is some of the teams that seemed like they had quarterback battles had multiple players listed on there. So Tennessee, Alabama had that, even Oklahoma, since they have a returnee with Mateer over the top of him. You didn't see Ryan Puglisi in the odds. So Vegas is very confident this is Gunner Stockton's job at this point.
Yeah, well, they also had JT Daniels as the number 1 Heisman guy. So who knows? They didn't put Stetson in there, but they did.
I think the start of the season last year, Carson Beck was number 1.
Yeah, but that's one of these things that futures bet. I don't think I would make a futures bet on the Heisman Trophy guy, but unless you just had a lot of money you wanted to flush down a toilet.
Fair, very fair.
So let's get some of these questions here rapid fire because I don't want to spend so much time on the rest of the conference. I mean, I like the rest of the conference, but not like I do Georgia.
All right, these from UGAsports.com. From Dirty Dog 69. How many buttons does Coach Donnan feel a UGA athlete should have open on the jersey during active competition? This is commentary on Georgia baseball players letting it fly.
Well, I'm never going to be critical of any other coach because it's not right. But I'm always for the players. All the players looking the same, and I had a dress code, a hair code, a earring code. Now nowadays you probably can't do it quite as much as you used to, but I just feel like that kind of discipline carries over into a lot of things. But again, it's a different world out there, the transfer portal, everything else. So 5 or 10 years ago, I would say that guy wouldn't be playing, but now that's just the way it is.
Felt like
I'm
one of
more
those things to me. If the team is playing well, it doesn't feel like it's as much of an issue. When you lose, it seems like it's an issue.
Yeah, but that's they didn't lose because of that. But sometimes those little things add up.
From Hugdog 18, Coach Donnan, we hear about the summer Pascal practices and how the offensive guys work on timing and route running. Do defensive players get in the action to build their timing in the summer as well?
Unbelievable. That's a great question. And those defensive backs, they don't give a shit if they get beat or anything. They go for interception every time. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that word, but they really, it is incredible how little, without the coaches out there, how little, they play technique and they play the coverages and all, but boy, they play tight and go for it. And so what? It got beat, but of course it gets back to the coaches but it's just if you can complete passes and even without the pass rush and pass skeleton in the summer, you're going to be pretty good because these guys, they're not worried about the run. All they're trying to do is intercept, and they get a lot of work. They go at it hard.
Yeah, the Pascal, some people don't realize that there is defense out there going up against them, play out, rep after rep after rep. Because especially if you go watch 7-on-7s, you're thinking pretty much just about the offense, and it's all about winning your 7-on-7. And their 7-on-7s going everywhere. Georgia's going to have a bunch of them. There's one at Athens Academy. There's one.
It's good if you're keeping score right. If you're keeping score now, they don't play as tight, but there's no score when they're going against each other out there practice.
Exactly. But they do. But that's the point is, okay, we know that they're working, but are they getting better? And coach just answered that. not as much as they should.
They get better as far as learning where to line up and play the coverages and all, but I just think that they don't – it's not reality really. I mean, as far as where they try to take chances.
From JSRS T-Dog, what went on in the Sugar Bowl on offense, and what's the basis to believe that it will be better this year? I'm just looking for reasons to be optimistic.
Well, you know, Notre Dame's pretty good on defense, and they took some chances, and they made some plays third down wise, and we didn't get a lot of snaps there. I mean, we didn't – they kept the ball away from us too, but I think just not being able to convert that one touchdown where we had to fumble and getting a penalty on the one that we hit to Smith and for the sideline warning. We just didn't – it's just like I've always said, you know, Jack Nicklaus doesn't shoot at 68 every day. Oh, now it's Scotty Scheffler, but he almost does every time. But you're going to have some days we just weren't – we pressed a lot too. We tried to, you know, do things, and we had a new quarterback. We might have been calling the game a little tighter as far as taking risk and stuff, but I just think overall that the confidence level is going to be better with the addition of new receivers. The running game should be a lot more solid. Defense should get off the field more. So that should encourage you. I hope those are good answers for you.
That's the questions from UGASports.com. Radi, if you had a couple from Facebook, we may have time to sneak those in here as well.
Yeah, the first one, Coach, was kind of your thoughts. What would you do to fix Georgia's run game? And you kind of answered it there, but when you think about Georgia,
there's a lot of elements to run game. First of all, you got to block. You're not going to just scheme people. There comes a point you got to get movement, and you got to get at the point of attack, and you've got to protect the edges, and you got to be able to block downfield. And all of those require different skill levels for the position you play. And so I just think, you know, proper technique, working hard on being physical, all of that enhances. And then the backs have got to make the plays that are there. You know, if the play's blocked accordingly, you don't need to be cutting back when you don't need to. And it's all take what they give you. And that goes again with when you're pressing, sometimes you're trying to make something on your own and you don't stick with the assignment. So I'd say point of attack, let's get some 4 and 5 yard runs, and then we'll get some bigger ones. And then I think the play action passing game will help our running game too.
Nice. Last question from Love UGA. Coach, what percentage of the House settlement do you expect to go to football? I guess the idea here is if Georgia gets $20 million that they have to take from their revenues and pay the players, does it all go to football?
I'd say the over-under there is 70%.
Okay.
Just because we've got that big of a payroll now, and we do have payroll in these other sports, but you've got other things involved in these other sports. More scholarships now are going to be available to the Olympic sports. So now that's not to say it couldn't be 65 or 60, but I would say at least 70 go to
that was cool. That was the question. Like, what ballpark are we in? Because people have asked me, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, they bring in the most money. Should they get it all of it?
We've got a good scenario here where our athletic department really works hard supporting the other sports. So they're going to do everything they can to help these other sports, but they also know where the bread's buttered. And so, but again, the real issue to me, which I'm going to make sure everybody understands, it's not that 20 or 22 million. It's how we're going to replace that in the budget, because that 22 million was going for a myriad of things, and now it's going to players. So how are you going to support the travel budgets, the financial things needed, the equipment, everything for all these other sports that came out of that 22 million? So we're going to have to come up with 20 million or at least 15 or so to make up for that.
We had a story last week from the SEC meetings. Harrison Reno wrote it up, but basically, Josh Brooks, the Georgia AD, said luckily we've got a lot of renovations done. They've renovated a number of items. They had 4 different projects going on at once. But he says we're going to have to cut back on renovations because we just don't have the money. So,
yeah, I think another thing, that's a good point, Roddy. That was a good story that he wrote too. I think another thing that Josh and our people will look into is everybody likes to have rainy day fun in the reserve, and we've got a good reserve here, but we've always been able to maintain it and get the funding for these other projects and other things privately and all that. I could see us looking into reserve a little bit and using that to kind of get us on catch up with what we lost. Now, that's just a prediction.
All right, you're right. And I've had people for years say, why doesn't Georgia use their reserves to build this and build that? I'm like, those reserves, they use that money as collateral to get the building loans to do other stuff. If you don't have that reserves, then you get a much higher interest rate, or you don't get approved for it at all. So you're like, oh, we'll just dip into the reserves. I'm like, you wouldn't run your house that way. You're damn sure not going to run the university that way.
And they go hand in hand. And because Josh's saying we're probably not going to do the facilities as much. We've got them along. So you're not going to need that collateral to borrow money for facilities. So you can maybe use it to help out on the other sports. And I hope we get to keep these other sports at the same level that we have them. But it's still, it makes a difference when you got a long trip and you got to ride a bus for 7 or 8 hours as compared to going on a charter, like the football team does. So I think all that stuff, I know where the coaches are coming from. They're going to have to tighten their buckles up.
All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We will be back next Tuesday at noon to talk Georgia football. We look forward to seeing you then. Until such a time, take care.